What's up, Rock Point kids? Welcome back to another online service. This entire month we're doing a series called Block Party. This month we're talking about friendship. Friendship is using your words and actions to show others that you care. We have a great message for you guys today, but before we jump into the message, I want all of you guys to stand up, jump as high as you can, get your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your animals, your stuffed animals, whatever is around you, and let's go into a time of worship.
Salvation sounds a new beginning. As distant hearts begin believing, redemption's bid is unrelenting. Your love goes on. Your love goes on. When the world gives way, carry us with your endless grace. Carry us. The time is up for chasing shadows. You gave the world a light to follow. When the world gives way, carry us with your endless grace. Carry us.
Tearing through the veil of darkness, breaking every chain you've set us free, fighting for the furthest part in you. You're alive for all to see. Tearing through the veil of darkness, breaking every chain you've set us free, fighting for the furthest part in you. You're
Love is relentless. I close my eyes and colors fly. There's no hiding from your grace. I can't deny your heart for mine, and it's unrelenting chase. I was on the edge of deception, caught up in my own hesitation, until your love took over me. So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. On a oasis, here awaits us all the freedom I ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go and I find life. When I let go, then I find life. When I let go, then I find life. The highway is calling me to a life unlike before. The Father's heart is beckoning, and I can't resist no more. Lead me in the ways of devotion. I don't wanna get caught in emotions. My heart is only for you, Lord. So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. On a oasis, here awaits us all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go, then I find life. Oh la la. When I let go, then I find life. When I let go, then I find life. So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. On oasis, here awaits us all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go, then I find life. 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 Oh la la, oh la la. When I let go, then I find life.
Welcome back, guys. Wasn't worship amazing? Man, I just love worshiping our God. Well, today we're going to talk about two famous friends in the Bible, and their names are Jonathan and David. Everybody say Jonathan and David. Hey, great job. So we're going to be talking about these two friends. We're going to be talking about a kingdom and a king. You know, in this time period in particular that we're going to be looking at, there were kings in Israel. So to rewind a little bit, throughout Israel's history, they had judges, they had prophets, and they had kings. And today we're going to dive into the time when they had their very first king, and his name was King Saul. In King Saul's reign, you had his son named Jonathan, and then you had an up-and-coming leader named David. And these two, they became the best of friends, and Saul started to see David as this up-and-coming leader, so he allowed him to lead their armies into battle. But the thing was, David started winning battle after battle. And King Saul began to become jealous. Because David started becoming popular, King Saul became super jealous of his popularity. He became so angry that he wanted to kill David. There was even a time where King Saul threw a spear hoping that it would hit David, but it missed. And next thing you know, King Saul is talking to Jonathan, his son, and he's saying, hey, if you see David, kill him. That's what he says. But because Jonathan was David's friend, Jonathan, instead of killing David, helped David. He watched out and made sure that David was safe. And Jonathan tried talking to his dad, the king at the time, King Saul. And King Saul said, okay, look, I'm not going to kill David. But then next thing you know, he's in fear of his life again because King Saul had jealousy. But no matter what, Jonathan, throughout the story, always helped David. Jonathan wasn't jealous of David's popularity. And even though Jonathan's dad was the king, he still loved his friend, David. So Jonathan made plans with David to keep him safe. And then there was this feast. And while they were at this feast, Jonathan was there, and David was hiding in a field for his life. And King Saul was expecting David to be there at the feast, but they made up a story. They made up a story so David wouldn't be at the feast and have a possibility of being killed by King Saul. And Jonathan then went to the field and he shot an arrow into the sky, letting him know how King Saul felt. Whether he was angry or happy or sad or mad, he shot an arrow into the sky as a secret code to show the king's feelings. And the two were like best friends. And they made this agreement with one another that no matter what happened, they would always be friends. In fact, in 1 Samuel chapter 20, 14 and 15, it says this. It says, "But always be kind to me, just as the Lord is. Be kind to me as long as I live. Then I won't be killed. And never stop being kind to my family. Don't stop even when the Lord has cut off every one of your enemies from the face of the earth." Jonathan is talking to David. He's saying, hey, be kind. Be kind to me. Be kind to my family, no matter what. And on the second day of the feast, Jonathan was there, David wasn't, and the king got angry, so he threw another spear at his son Jonathan. The king was angry, and he wanted to find David. But even though the king was angry, David had plans to make sure that he was safe from the king. And while David was in the field, Jonathan went and knowing that his dad was angry, shot another arrow into the sky, saying, hey, David, you need to run because King Saul is angry. So David saw this and he ran. He ran far away. A little later on, Jonathan saw King David and he says this. And David ran away. And then later on, David and Jonathan met up for one last time. And it says this in 1 Samuel 20, verse 42. It says, Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace. In the name of the Lord, we've promised to be friends. We have said the Lord is a witness between you and me. He's a witness between your children and my children forever." Then David left, and Jonathan went back to town. Jonathan could have been so angry with David because David was growing in popularity. He could have been jealous and all of that, but Jonathan wasn't. Jonathan knew that David was his best friend. He helped David. He protected David. He watched out and made sure that David was okay. And he did this all because they were friends. And in the years that followed, King Saul and Jonathan ended up dying in battle. And David, who knew that promise, he knew the promise that he made with Jonathan, kept his promise because he remembered his great friend Jonathan. No matter what, David always showed kindness to Jonathan's family because of the promise that he made. And our big idea for today, and one thing I want you guys to see, is that friends are to love one another. Friends are to love one another, even like Jonathan and the way he loved David, and David the way he loved Jonathan, because even though King Saul, Jonathan's dad, was angry with David, he wanted to kill David, Jonathan didn't see it that way. Jonathan wasn't jealous, he wasn't angry. He wanted to be a good friend. He wanted to love David because he was his friend. So I'm sure as you guys are hearing this, you're thinking of some of your friends and ways that you can love your friends. And the reality is, every person we come into contact with, we are to love. We're to love one another, just as in our story today, Jonathan loved David. So with that being said, our memory verse for this month is Proverbs 17, verse 17. And it says this: a friend loves at all times. They are there to help when trouble comes. It says a friend loves at all times, not just this time or this time, but at all times. They are there to help when any sort of trouble comes, because they're there for each other. Just like Jonathan and David, how they loved at all times. And when one of them was in trouble, the other one was looking out for them. So just remember Proverbs 17:17, and how we are to love our friends at all times. And when one of our friends falls or they're having a rough time, that we can help them. With that being said, guys, I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week. We can't wait to see you guys next weekend. All right, guys, we'll see you next weekend. Bye.